It's a rather different looking day today on the surroundings of the Red Bull Ring. The FIM Sidecar World Championship back out and ready for race 2 of the weekend, the longer of the two superside races. 17 laps of this 4.3-kilometre circuit. If you joined us yesterday for the 10-lap sprint, you'll know that the conditions were immensely challenging, and it allowed Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau to take their first win in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. They start from the inside of the front row, P2 on the grid for this race in the Steinhausen Racing 45. But a great result yesterday. They had a wonderful launch off the line, led from turn 1 and didn't relinquish that lead right up to the finish. It was a rather more disappointing run, though, for Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement in the number 6, or on the number 6, I should say. The pairing, the reigning champions, who did not really find their groove in the wet conditions yesterday. They start from pole once again today, but they'll be looking for a better result than the 5th place that they gained on Saturday. Critically, they finished behind the Birchall brothers, the championship leaders, and that is not a position that they would wanted to have been in. They started from pole. The Birchalls started in P7. It was a golden opportunity to gain some points back in the championship, and they didn't really capitalise as anticipated. So that's going to be at the forefront of their ambitions for this race, starting from the front row of the grid. In the championship, it is in the World Championship standings, seemingly a bit of a two-horse race at the moment. The Birchalls on 153 points, Ellis and Clement on 123, so a 30-point deficit between them. And then there's a 36-point gap back to Payne and Rousseau, who have now assumed 3rd in the standings. Pavarinter and De Haas, who are 3rd on the grid, they're 7th in the standings. It's a very compact midfield, or latter half of the top 10 in the championship standings. Payne and Rousseau on 87 points, the Christies on 84, Kershaw and Charlwood on 79, and then after coming 2nd yesterday, Tim Reeves and Mike Wilkes on 66 points, just 13 back from Kershaw and Charlwood, so they've also made some progress. Stroyer and Kulsch on the ARS Yamaha, one of the Bonovo Action Team run machines, the Bonovo Action Junior Team machine. Rather high up the grid, 4th on the grid after the 2 qualifying sessions on Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. Conditions were not very nice in either of the 2 qualifying sessions, but it's better on Sunday.
Fahrspaß pur und ab sofort. 4 Jahre Garantie auf alle neuen Kawasaki Straßenmotorräder in Deutschland. Auf zum Kawasaki Vertragspartner. Dort findet ihr das richtige Motorrad. Garantiert.
So we look over the glorious Red Bull Ring. What a fabulous facility this 4.3-kilometre circuit is. It's been a long time since it was on a FIM Sidecar World Championship calendar. Have to go back to the 90s and the early 2000s, the A1 Ring era. You see the first 2 rows of the grid there. We've talked about them in detail. The Christies on row 3 alongside Kershaw and Charlwood. There's the Birchells, 7th once again, alongside Tim Reeves and Mike Wilkes. That is a very, very decorated 4th row of the grid. The Peugeots, the contenders in the German championship there on the 74 alongside Archer and Christie, rounding out the top 10 as you continue to filter through the grid on your graphics here. It is worth noting, I've brought it up in brief across the season, a lot of these championship runs in the world, a lot of these rounds in the FIM Sidecar World Championship also scoring points in the IDM series, the German series. It is Sattler and Schmidt on top of that at the moment on 120 points. So they are top of the standings. However, they are also absent this weekend. So that is a big story in the German paddock. The Peugeot family, the French duo, are scoring points in the German championship, and they're only 17.5 points back from Sattler and Schmidt, so that could be a story in the German championship standings as well. But in the Superside World Championship, the World Sidecars, it is the Birchells on 153 points, 123 for Ellis and Clement. I believe that is the number 35 passenger. I think, unfortunately, they're not able to take the start this weekend, hence they're in the German language commentary box for this weekend. The Birchells, though, starting from 7th on the grid, they ascended up to P4 yesterday in very tricky conditions. But really, the most spectacular first lap of all yesterday went to Tim Reeves. Managed to pick his way up to 3rd place by the end of the first lap from 8th on the grid. It was really quite sensational work from him. Mark Wilkes and Tim Reeves from 8th on the grid, then behind Ben and Tom Birchall. They will be well worth a watch on that 4th row of the grid. Can Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement convert this pole position into a better result today? They'll be looking to be faster out of the blocks. They want to beat Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau to that first corner, if at all possible. They've also, of course, got to worry about the highly experienced and decorated Pekka Pavarinta and Ilse de Haas. Pavarinta, a former world champion, of course. And they've also got to keep an eye on the Christies as well. I think we didn't quite see the best out of the Christie outfit, Tom and Sam Christie. Worth noting as well, I've mentioned before, majority of this field powered by Yamaha, a split of chassis, ARS and LCR chassis, of course, all 600cc machines. We do have a Suzuki powered machine towards the back of the order, Pierre Lujan, and Christoph Darris's machine is a Suzuki power plant. The only Honda is the championship leading machine, Ben and Tom Birchall, powered by Honda. So then, 17 laps of a racing is about to get started. The green flag has been waved at the back of the grid. Who will get the best launch? Will it be our pole sitters this time, or will it be Payne and Rousseau again, who are quick out of the blocks? It looks like a very good start for our pole sitters. It will be the number 6 that leads into the first corner. The Birchall's got a decent launch from row 4 of the grid as well. Charlwood and Kershaw up the inside there, further back in the pack, as everybody just about manages to find a little bit of space. Now, I reckon we're going to get a lot more overtaking here, this time in the dry conditions, this chicane. Oh, and a big spin on the very first lap at the chicane. I was just about to mention that in the dry conditions, I expect more action at the chicane, less tiptoeing, but unfortunately, pushing too hard at the very first time through the corner. Yesterday's winners, the 45, Harrison Payne, Kevin Rousseau. They only lasted 3 corners, or 2 corners even, before having a moment. They're picking their way back through the order towards the rear now. Meanwhile, side by side, almost, Reeves and the Birchells. Tim Reeves in the 77 has once again ascended through the order spectacularly. I think he's in 3rd position, if I'm not mistaken, behind Pavarinta and de Haas. Yes. So Ellis and Clement disappearing up the road, helped, of course, by the spin from Payne and Rousseau, who were second. Pavarinta into Haas now in P2, but already up to 4th place and challenging for 3rd are the Birchells. And they got squeezed there a little bit. They tried to carry the momentum out of the Wirth curve. But Reeves and Wilkes held their track position. All the Birchells wide at Rindt, and that opens up the door to Kershaw and Charlwood for 4th position. The Quattro plant back number 29 of Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood moves up into 4th place then. The Birchells momentarily were challenging for 3rd. They now find themselves in 5th, and with the Christies just behind them, they have just as much chance of losing out as they do of gaining on the lap to come. It's looking like a real dogfight for 2nd place back, and that's exactly what Ellis and Clement will want at the front of the order, of course. They've crossed the line for the first time with a 2.2 second advantage over the chasing pack. That first lap could not have gone any better for last year's champions, the defending champions, who currently sit 2nd in the point standings. Kershaw and Charlwood looking to try and outpower Reeves and Wilkes there on the run out of Remus curve towards Schlossgold. Kershaw and Charlwood looking to the inside and couldn't quite get it done there. The Birchells, of course, now sensing their opportunity because Kershaw and Charlwood rather compromised their run through that corner. Let's see if the Birchells again carry more speed here through Rauch and Wirth, the 2 consecutive left-handers. Yes, once again, look at that, carrying so much more speed through that corner. Again, can't quite find room. Listen to them come over the brow of this hill. These 600cc motors, high revving. And in such close proximity, it really is a wall of noise as they come past the big grandstand here at the Red Bull Ring. Awesome machines. And at the moment, it's Clement and Ellis with the advantage. Still building the lead as everyone else scraps behind. The Birchells, I think, might have a run on Kershaw and Charlwood. They had their nose cut off by Tim Reeves, and sure enough, the Birchells have the inside line on the approach to the chicane. They get the move done before they even get to the chicane. Kershaw a little braver on the brakes, though, tried to get back up the inside, couldn't quite do it. The Christies keeping a watching brief as well. There's also worth noting, look at the 74. The Peugeots once again seem to be on form here in the Red Bull Ring. They were well up in the top 10 yesterday as well. In yesterday's race, they were 8th position, but they're holding on to that leading pack. Side by side between Reeves and Birchall by the looks of it. Birchall having already made up 1 position. I think Ben and Tom Birchall may have just snuck through into 3rd position. We'll keep our eyes out for that. Meanwhile, we catch up with the race winner, the front row starter from yesterday's race winner, making their way back through the order. This is not what Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau had in mind today. There's gravel up in the air. Tim Reeves. Oh, and a bike turned over. That is not what we like to see. I think that may have been the Birchall 16, but we'll see as they come across the line. Charlwood and Christie, or Charlwood and Kershaw and the Christies still racing. Red flags fly. The red flags have been put out, unsurprisingly. After just 3 laps of racing. Some have continued on past the pits, others going into pit lane. To be a collision between the Reeves outfit and the Birchells. Obviously, we now head back to pits, to the main straight. And we hope that all things are okay down at the Rauch corner. Rest of the field into pit lane then. We're just 3 laps into the 17, the time of that red flag. Last of the front runners heading back into pit lane now then, so everybody will in due course form an orderly queue at the behest of the IDM officials. And hopefully we have good news. Hopefully we have a race again before too long. For now, all thoughts and focus on hopefully a good outcome down at that corner. We have had a very lucky run of fortune really this season so far in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. We haven't had too many collisions of any nature so far this season, really. There are a couple of what I'd call hip checks at the Saxon Ring, where, of course, overtaking can be quite the challenge. It's Spa and Most. There was some incredible battling, but largely very clean. Sometimes that fight for track space can lead to a collision. Of course, in yesterday's wet race, we saw a far different circuit in the sense that there's a lot of difference in grip from corner to corner. That chicane that you can see in the center of shot is, of course, newly resurfaced. You can see just how much newer that tarmac is on the run through what is car racing turn 2. And in the wet conditions, that newer tarmac looked incredibly treacherous yesterday. There were some very brave and very sideways entries to the corner. So again, if you are just joining us, 3 laps of this race run. We are under red flags at the moment after a collision in the middle sector of the lap. We await any information we can provide you. The longer of the 2 FIM Sidecar World Championship races, the 17-lap encounter. Yesterday's 10-lapper in the wet weather saw a welcome first victory for Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau. The Steinhausen Racing outfit, the only Steinhausen Racing entry on the grid, taking a first win. Payne and Rousseau, the Manx outfit. Or at least very much adopted Manx outfit. Schwegler and Kopecky, their machine. It's the number 19. Schwegler and Kopecky so far, or rather I should say Schwegler and his previous co-driver Fries were the bottom of the standings, 2 points scored so far, and those points were actually scored yesterday at the Red Bull Ring in the World Championship order. Of course, you see there the IDM bikes in the garage. The German Superbike Championship and German Motorcycle Road Racing Organization, who've taken over the promotion of the FIM Sidecar World Championship this year. And it has been an interesting season so far, with some returning classic venues and then venues we haven't been to for some time, such as right here at the Red Bull Ring. Been a long time since the Sidecar World Championship was here. I think the previous Austrian Sidecar World Championship round, if I'm not mistaken, was the Salzburg Ring, as opposed to the former Auschwitz Ring. The IDM and Motorpress Stuttgart collaborating on promotion and advancement of the FIM Sidecar World Championship, and I think they've done a stellar job so far this year. Teams will be awaiting info as we are. The paddock here in the sidecar community, very much a close-knit one. I think all eyes straying from the competition aspect. I'm just hearing now that we're expecting a restart in 5 minutes. So it shouldn't be too long before we get some racing underway.
Maschine von Pekka und Ilse. Pekka, there was a little jump start, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think too much nervous. No rain. I picked different day. And what happened? Stop. And I'm always looking at a penalty, but I'm no see penalty lap. Good luck. Yeah.
Till now you're really lucky, but probably it will come up later. We don't know. This is something race control will decide. But until now you're still safe.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yeah.
Actually, you know, when you're coming from wet conditions into dry, everything is completely new. You didn't ride any single kilometer in dry this weekend, and so it's normal sometimes to also be nervous.
Yeah, of course. And now I'm quick shifter electric no rock because too much water this electric. Now I'm something like drive old style, and a little bit difficult now. But we look. I'm hope good many points, 1 points. This is important.
This is really important. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pekka. And yeah, good luck for the next 11 laps, I think. And it's going up in a few minutes again to a restart. Yeah. And wir gehen jetzt hoch wieder zu euch.
Sounds like 11 laps then, potentially. Haven't had that come up on my timing screen as yet, but we heard the information there from pit lane. Pekka Pavarinta, I think, arguably a bit too honest. He's a wily old fox, the Finnish racer, 5-time world champion. Don't admit to a jump start if race control haven't picked up on it. We did see the replay there. He did creep forward a little bit, but then kind of compromised his start in the process of stopping again. So whether or not any action is taken there remains to be seen. I have information on my screen saying pit lane estimated to be open in 3 minutes. We'll then go to a quick start procedure, so I think they will just trundle around the circuit and then immediately go racing. And it says remaining race distance 17 laps. So it sounds as if we might actually get a full race restart as opposed to 11 laps, but obviously that is maybe not ironclad just yet. Some down in pits may be thinking we might get a reduced distance. Of course, they want to make sure that the rest of the day's proceedings in the various German national championships can go ahead as scheduled. The Zimmermann Racing crew there, the number 33. Of Zimmermann and Mal. Max Zimmermann and Ronja Mal on their ARS chassis. Powered, as so many of the machines are, by Yamaha. In the championship standings at the moment, the top 5 is 4 LCR chassis and 1 ARS Yamaha. The 1 ARS being Payne and Rousseau. So they flying the flag for the ARS chassis alone, really, at the top of the World Championship order. Again, we are expecting the machines to head out in very short order. Just got a bulletin on the board saying new race distance of 15 laps. And the order is also reset to the initial grid, which would suggest to me that potentially Payne and Rousseau might get their front row back. And if that's the case, that will do them a world of good. Everyone then now heading out of pit lane at the anticipated 13:25. If you are just joining us, we had a red flag. The Birchells and the Reeves-Wilkes machines colliding. No information as yet regarding the condition of the competitors, but hopefully we can bring good news in due course. But the race is resuming. The green flags have waved at the end of the pit lane. And now these machines head towards the grid. I believe they will stop on the grid and then quite promptly get sent out for a formation lap, if my understanding of the regulations is correct. So Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, who were doing an incredible job in that first phase of the race, will have to do it all again. It was a poor start that cost them in the wet conditions yesterday, allowed Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau to sweep into an early lead. And they'll be looking to get a start more akin to what they had just a little while ago today. And that was a very effective getaway from pole position at the very start of the race. launched forth into an early lead, which was 2 seconds at the end of the first lap alone, as the chasing pack scrapped for P2. Pekka Pavarinta and Ilse de Haas were running very strong in the early stages of that race. They were up in second place after Payne and Rousseau had their spin, but you see there, the 45 lining back up on the front row of the grid. So the race resumes with a good opportunity here for Payne and Rousseau to right the wrongs of their initial attempt at starting this race. Of course, Pavarinta and de Haas running second in the early stages. That would match their best result of the season so far, which came, of course, at the Most circuit, the third round of the season. Noting there that we are missing a machine from row 2 of the grid. That would be the 21 of Stroyer and Kolsch, I believe, who are not there. That's unfortunate for them. They don't appear to be in the lineup either. Whether they were also involved in that collision, we didn't see them, or whether they've got a separate issue, I'm not too certain, but looks as though we are missing 3 machines from this restart. Kershaw and Charlwood were really impressive in the first few laps of this race. They were, of course, fighting for the podium places. We had a big scrum fighting for second place earlier on. Of course, in the case of the race leads, this time Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau will be helping to very much hold on to and challenge Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement. Ellis and Clement yesterday taking a 5th place finish. We're 30 points down coming into this race on the Birchells. And we hope that all things are okay with the Birchells and the Reeves-Wilkes outfit. The race will return to green flag conditions, full racing, in just a few moments' time then. Everyone lining up. It's going to be 15 laps of racing. And based on the form that they were showing on a dry track earlier on, I think the question is going to be, can anybody challenge Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement? What kind of pace do Payne and Rousseau have in the dry? Obviously, it's been so wet this weekend that we don't really have that much barometer of everyone's dry weather pace or how good their dry weather setups are for this circuit, because it's been raining for such a lion's share of the running. We certainly don't have much of a barometer on Payne and Rousseau, who of course had their spin. But now we venture back into racing conditions. The lights are out and they are underway, and it is once again a good start from Ellis and Clement. Todd Ellis with a good getaway, but Payne and Rousseau with an even better one by the looks of it. They may well lead. Yes, they do. It is Payne and Rousseau that lead briefly. Ellis and Clement with the undercut, though, coming out of the corner. Thought they might have had the run, but they don't. They remain tucked in behind as they approach the chicane for the first time. Ellis, always late on the brakes, though, dives up the inside and into the lead once again. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, though, really having to grapple with Payne and Rousseau in the early stages of this one. Payne with a nose ahead once again. The Steinhausen Racing 45 tries to find a way by, but can't quite do it there. Side by the looks of it, still for the lead. Yes, Payne and Rousseau just about in the lead, but can Todd Ellis dive to the inside line? Yes, he can. We saw it at Most at the first corner, that tight first turn. He's so late on the brakes, but again drifting wide. Payne and Rousseau power back through into the lead. Ellis has a look to that inside line, but backs out of it. Kershaw and Charlwood in 4th position. They are behind Pavarinta and De Haas. Then it's the Christies in 5th, although Pavarinta and De Haas there with a wheel off the ground did not get through the corner very well, and they've lost out there. I think they may even drop to 5th place. They've certainly lost out to the 29 outfit. Stephen Kershaw, Ryan Charlwood up into 3rd place then. Ellis and Clement now looking for the toe down the main straight and towards the Niki Lauda curve for the second time of asking. To the inside line they go. Very nicely done. Committed, late on the brakes. And the number 6 is through into the lead once again. Ellis is usually able to stop it on a dime, but can Harry Payne match? They're still side by side. They're looking for space. They're finding space. Payne and Rousseau once again try and get the better run out of the corner. Kershaw and Charlwood very much getting involved in this scrap as well now. They go to the inside. Briefly, they go to the lead. Do they have the run out of the corner? Yes, but not quite enough. Ellis and Clement surge back through into the lead, coming out of the Remus bend. Towards Schlossgold we go once again. And it's 3 wide. Great racing between all 3 parties. Ellis and Clement remain in the lead. Payne and Rousseau backed out of that one. Kershaw and Charlwood with a nose ahead for 2nd place. The riders shift side, or the passengers I should say, shift sides now to the left-hand side of the sidecar. And remain in position now because another left-hander. Then they've got to switch while under quite a lot of G-force here before the rise up towards Rint Curve. Pavarinta and De Haas under a lot of pressure behind this three sidecar scrap for the lead. There's also 3 contesting 4th place as well. Pavarinta and De Haas, the Christies, and Ted and Vincent Peugeot once again quick in the early stages up there in 6th place. The top 6 almost united as they cross the line once again. Ellis and Clement still your race leaders. Kershaw and Charlwood, though, rising up from further back on the grid. Putting in a very good showing right now. Not close enough for a move into the chicane. Scrubbed a little bit of speed going sideways through the chicane, but they didn't lose too much time. Kershaw and Charlwood lined up 6th on the grid. Oh, and they dived to the inside at Remus there. Had my head in a document, and Kershaw and Charlwood snuck to the inside. Very nicely done. It's now side by side once again. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement look to the inside once more. And once again, Todd Ellis's stellar late braking ability pays off. And this time he manages a good exit from the corner as well. But Kershaw and Charlwood shadowing the 6. A year of mixed fortunes so far for the 29 Quattro plant machine. Didn't get to run in the races at the Autodrom Most, but now have ascended back to 3rd in this, or rather they will be hoping to ascend up the standings if they can get a good result today. Of course, that's exactly what happened to Payne and Rousseau, currently running 3rd after their win yesterday. They really did fly up the championship order to 3rd in the standings. A position they would maintain if things finish as they are. Kershaw and Charlwood currently 5th in the championship on 79 points. Their best finish so far, a 2nd place at the season opening Sachsenring weekend. They're in 2nd for now, but here comes Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau. Oh, and again, Kershaw and Charlwood really wild through that chicane. take a lot more corner speed into the turn, and perhaps are they slightly... Oh, and Payne and Rousseau also with a big snap there. Quite easily done through that turn. Want to get the rotation done without losing any momentum. Pavarinter and De Haas look like they're losing out 4th place. Sam and Tom Christie to the inside. But Pavarinter and De Haas just cutting the nose off there. Sam and Tom Christie for Hannafin Racing. Have they got it done? Yes, they have. 4th position for the 34. Ellis and Clement continue to lead the way then. Pavarinter and De Haas, after showing really well yesterday, they are struggling a bit more in these dry conditions by the looks of it. I'm getting the impression, looking at some of the cornering, that perhaps it's slightly softer sprung than those around them. The next adversary could be the Peugeots behind them in 6th position. It's the number 6, though, in the lead. Lap 5 of 15. And it is a 6-car train, or a 6-sidecar train, at the front of the order. Again, Payne and Rousseau there, just taking a little bit too much inside curb, I think, is the prevailing concern. And unsettling themselves along the way. There's your 7th place outfit. Archer and Christie on the other Hannafin machine. Then you've got a scrap further back for 8th place. Kimswenger in 8th, along with Sedlacek in the passenger saddle. Cable and Richardson in 9th place. And then rounding out the top 10 at the moment looks to be the number 10 outfit, Holden and Van Middegaal. So the 11 and the 111 at blows at the moment. Cable and Richardson trying to find a way past the almost Hulk-esque number 11. Sedlacek debuted in 2009 as a passenger, same year that Peter Kimswenger debuted, but 2022, I believe, was their first full season together. Sedlacek has also raced occasionally as a driver as opposed to a passenger. No changes then at the top end of the order. It's still Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement at the front, albeit with a healthy dose of pressure from Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charwood. Pavarinter and De Haas look like they might be slowing. They did not have much momentum out of the chicane, and the Peugeots look like they may have been drawing alongside for 5th place. Now, was that just a little bit of an error, or was that a sign of potential strife for Pavarinter and De Haas? They're down to, although they stay in 5th place, it looks like the machine is okay, but they certainly didn't get the traction out of the chicane. In the back of shot there for 5th position. Kershaw and Charwood really not relenting in the slightest up against Ellis and Clement. What a day to be racing in a world championship in the Austrian mountains after the weather wasn't particularly welcome on Saturday and Sunday. It's much better today. They might be side by side through Rindt. I think we may have had Charwood and Kershaw looking to the inside for the lead. We need to see the leaders. Was there a move made? I don't think there's been a change of position. Kershaw and Charwood, I think, still in 2nd place, yes. It definitely looked like the momentum was with the 29 going over the brow of the hill towards Rindt. Harry Payne and Kevin Rousseau Still under immense pressure from Sam and Tom Christie. The Christies really asserting themselves in this one. They got past Pavarinta and De Haas a few laps ago, and they've not let go of the rear Avon of Payne and Rousseau since. The Steinhausen Racing 45 outfit taking the victory yesterday. Of course, spun out on the first attempt at starting this race earlier on and regained their second position on the grid owing to that red flag. Can they convert that second opportunity into a podium? They're holding on by the skin of their teeth right now. Christie's awaiting an opportunity, waiting for their turn. And potentially waiting for their turn is the best thing they can do, because with the pair having largely stayed line astern this lap, so it looks to me like they might be closing in on Kershaw and Ellis. However, here come the Christies. Good run towards Rint, and I think they may well have third position. It looked like they had a nose ahead. Yes, they did. They got through into third place. Payne and Rousseau then losing out on that third position. I said they were holding on to it by the skin of their teeth, and that skin didn't prove to be thick enough. 1.7 seconds separate our top four. Half a second separating the 5th and 6th place battle as well. Some brilliant close dueling here at the Red Bull Ring. Oh, goodness me, another another slidey moment there at that chicane. Relatively newly built. The Peugeots with a snap of power coming out of the chicane as well there in the background in 6th place. They're clearly pushing on to try and maybe challenge for 5th, but the race lead has not been certain really at any point in this race. Kershaw and Charlwood have been shadowing Ellis and Clement ever since this race resumed. And look at the long gap back to 7th place. There is the 7th place machine. Rupert Archer, Adam Christie. Still there in 7th place. I see that Cable and Richardson have managed to move up to 8th place. And actually the number 11 of Peter Kimswenger and Andrzej Sedlacek has fallen all the way down to 12th place. So things have shuffled about a bit in the battle for 8th position. Cable and Richardson on for a good result there at the moment. Indeed, I think it was on the previous lap that Kimswenger and Sedlacek fell 3 positions from 9th to 12th. The momentum swing doesn't take much. Just a slight overcooking of the final corner, for instance. Scrub off all your momentum and everyone just blazes past you. A bit wide there from Payne and Kershaw, or I should say Payne and Rousseau, my apologies. Kershaw and Charlwood, of course, in 2nd place. Not sure that Stephen Kershaw is going to take the passenger saddle anytime soon. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement still under immense pressure, aren't they? They really haven't had any respite. The Anglo-French connection, the reigning world champions from last year. You see the little detail, the gold number 1 within their number 6 decal on the front of that LCR chassis. Signifying their world title prowess from the previous year. Kershaw and Charlwood with a really good run. Over the crest they go, side by side for the lead. Oh, but Todd Ellis once again late on the brakes. And around the outside, he carried the momentum to hold that lead. I thought for sure we were about to see Kershaw and Charlwood go through. Here they come, past the start-finish gantry once again. Love the sound of those 600s. Will effectively be super sport style motors in these machines, delivering more than enough grunt. 2017, the year that the World Championship shifted over to 600cc. Still holding on to 5th place is Pekka Pavarinta and Ilse de Haas. Since falling from that early duel for podium positions, Pavarinta and de Haas have firmly stayed in amongst it, just holding off the Peugeot duo at the moment, the father-son duo of Ted and Vincent Peugeot. Kershaw and Charlwood still right there on the back of Ellis and Clement. You get the feeling that towards the end of this race, much like the final round of a boxing match, I think the swings will start to come in towards the end. The wild haymakers may be thrown. There's the 42. Up in 9th place now, so Gertlich and Neubert have managed to get their way past the 111 of Cable and Richardson. Have been right in that scrap all race long. Cable, a hugely experienced sidecar racer of over 3 decades. Charlie Richardson, a former British sidecar passenger champion. Behind them, I believe that is Zimmerman and Mal in the 33, just seeing what their options could be. Maybe just waiting to see if the gates open for them. In fact, that's the number 10, my apologies, of Holden. So that is actually down in 10th place now. They were 8th across the line. So it's 8th place now for the 42 outfit, and change for 9th place as well, as Cable and Richardson got past the number 10 too. Interesting. So Holden and Midegal not having the best of laps there by the looks of it. We return to the front of the order, and it's very much a 3-bike race by the looks of it. Maybe Payne and Rousseau just starting to struggle. They have been the most sideways outfit, I think it's fair to say. And whether that is maybe starting to have an effect on the rear tyres. Well, rear tyre, the one that gives traction is the one that counts. Kershaw and Charlwood to the inside, and this time the momentum over the crest of the hill has paid off. I thought that perhaps Ellis would be able to use that late braking to his advantage to stave off, but this time Kershaw and Charlwood just had too much momentum. They crossed the line to begin lap 12 of the race. Let's get a look at that again. They're about even Stevens under the gantry, but Kershaw just carried that little bit more speed. And as they go on to lap 12, it's a real scrap for the lead now. Ellis and Clement for the first time not able to say they're leading this race. Of course, they had a great scrap with Payne and Rousseau in early doors, but they've led across the line every time as far as my memory serves. However, this time by it was Kershaw and Charlwood there at the sharp end on the Kershaw Racing Quattro plant back to number 29. About the Christies, can they launch an offensive manoeuvre here? They're very much still on the back of this, and of course, if the top 2 or the top 3 start fighting, Payne and Rousseau, who are just an iota off that top 3, they could well surge forward as well. Stephen Kershaw and Ryan Charlwood are your leaders as they head on to lap 13. It will be 3 to go this time by. And it looks as though the Christies have a run potentially here. Not quite able to get past Ellis and Clement, but the Hannafin Racing duo are very much acting with purpose, I would say. But Kershaw and Charlwood got a bit of a wiggle on there coming out of the final corner. Ellis and Clement now welded to the rear. Is this the opportunity for Ellis and Clement to dive back to the inside at Niki Lauda curve the first corner? Not quite. Kershaw and Charlwood will be aware of Todd Ellis's braking capabilities. And again, looking a little bit later on the brakes going into the chicane. Love watching these machines go through that chicane. They seem to shift 90 degrees seamlessly. Very impressive. That is all thanks to the efforts of the passenger. Lunging across the width of the vehicle. Christie's just about holding on to third place there. There was a bit of an attack from Payne and Rousseau. Maybe splitting off into duo battles here. Will Payne and Rousseau maybe just bide their time and hope that the Christies can drag them back towards the lead scrap? We've had a couple of grandstand finishes already this year. That second race at Most ended with a wonderful final lap. Will Ellis and Clement once again have to fight for that win? They've taken 2 so far this year. We've had 3 different race winners. The third of which was, of course, Payne and Rousseau yesterday. 2 wins in the pocket so far for Ellis and Clement, the defending FIM Sidecar World Champions. They will, of course, if all things finish as they are, get some points back on the Birchells, but they won't be thinking about that. They'll be hoping the Birchells are okay more than anything. The Kershaw and Charlwood duo right there with Ellis and Clement as they head towards the chicane on the penultimate lap. Kershaw and Charlwood looking to the inside line, can't quite get that done. What was looking like a 2x2 formation is now very much a four-strong scrap at the front of the order. It's still as well Pavarinter and De Haas just about holding off Ted and Vincent Peugeot as well in 5th and 6th place. That's been a fun battle as well. Never left wanting for action in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. The Superside machinery always brings us exciting action. To mention briefly that battle for 8th place we've been following, Gertlich and Neubert seem to have distanced themselves from Cable and Richardson, Holden and Middlegal. I think they've got 8th place sewn up. But it's anything but sewn up at the front of the order. Perhaps sewn together, but certainly not sewn up. These 4 seemingly bound together every time one drops off or one gets away. They all seem to concertina back into the same piece of tarmac. Final lap of the race this time by. So we start the final lap with Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement back at the front of the order. They briefly lost that lead to Kershaw and Charlwood. Kershaw and Charlwood need to be worried about the Christies, though. The Hannafin Racing duo right there behind them. I don't think the Kershaws will be close enough into the chicane, although their momentum down towards the chicane is very impressive. They have the inside line. They can't quite get there. But watch as they head towards Remus for the final time. They've got some lap traffic up ahead as well, which could be a factor. And there goes the move. The Quattro Plant 29 dives to the inside. Stephen Kershaw tried it on the brakes, couldn't quite get it done. It's now a drag race between he and Todd Ellis. Ellis will have the inside line, but he does not have the lead. Kershaw and Charlwood managed to get to the front. Here comes Ellis and Clement. Close as you like through Schloss Gold. Kershaw and Charlwood will have the inside line for the next braking zone. Here come the Christies as well. It's almost 3 wide. Again, lap traffic just ahead. Will that play into the hands of anybody before the end? It's Kershaw and Charlwood that lead the way. Here is the lap traffic staying well out of the way. Nicely done. Can Kershaw and Charlwood hold on? Just two apexes, both right-handers between themselves and the finish. Slight defensive line into Rindt. Ellis and Clement try and sweep around the corner quicker. They carry more momentum. But the last corner is not really an overtaking place, or is it? Because they carry the momentum. They win the drag race. They have the momentum. They have the speed. And Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, with a masterful move at the last corner, take the race win. That was sensational control from Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement, who take the win. I thought for certain Kershaw and Charlwood had it sewn up, but they tried to carry a little bit too much speed on a defensive line at the final corner, and Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement struck with authority there. They won it by just under a tenth. Brilliant racing once again in the FIM Sidecar World Championship, and once again, when it's a last lap battle, Todd Ellis, with sensational racecraft, manages to do the business. A full haul of 25 points then for Ellis and Clement. Kershaw and Charlwood with a very well-deserved second place. The Christies held on to P3. Payne and Rousseau taking fourth position. The top four separated by exactly half a second, 0.500. That tells you all you need to know about what the FIM Sidecar World Championship can be at its best. Brilliant racing here at the Red Bull Ring.
Fahrspaß pur und ab sofort. 4 Jahre Garantie auf alle neuen Kawasaki Straßenmotorräder in Deutschland. Auf zum Kawasaki Vertragspartner. Dort findet ihr das richtige Motorrad. Garantiert.
Driven by passion. Driven by perfection. Driven by racing. Gearless, driven by function.
So the team's returning to the paddock after a brilliant race in the FIM Sidecar World Championship. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement do the business once again to claim their third win of the season, finishing just under a tenth clear of Kershaw and Charlwood in second place. The Christies hold on to third, another podium for them. Yet to finish better than third this year, but they're being very consistent. Payne and Rousseau in fourth position after their victory on Saturday. Pavarinta and De Haas in fifth place, just holding off the Peugeots in that scrap. In seventh place, Archer and Christie. Gertlich and Neubert's taking eighth place. Holden and Middegal managed to get past Cable and Richardson in the end in the battle for ninth position. So Cable and Richardson rounding out the top 10. 11th place for Zimmerman and Mal in the 33. Kimsvega and Sedlacek in 12th. Schwegler and Kopeski on the 19 in 13th place. Leugen and Darras also taking the flag a lap down. We saw that 25 being lapped on the closing stages of the race, and a tip of the cap as well to Luygen on that 25. That was very heads-up piloting from Pierre Luygen, or Lejeune, I should say, Pierre Lejeune. Just managed to take the outside line there with 3 corners to go. Stayed largely out of everybody's way, maybe slightly compromised the Christies, but there was only so much that could be done by the 25 crew to stay out of the way. Todd, Ellis, Emmanuel Clement will be our race winners here at the Red Bull Ring. 2 different winners again this weekend. Of course, again, as many of you will know, we did have as you know, we did have the red flag earlier. Any information regarding that incident will be up on the FIM Sidecar World Championship socials. However, with the schedule quickly moving on to the next events after the delays to this FIM Sidecar World Championship race, all that remains for me to do is thank you for watching. Make sure you join us in a fortnight when the FIM Sidecar World Championship heads to Assen. Todd Ellis and Emmanuel Clement will continue to try and claim a second consecutive FIM Sidecar World Championship.